The cosmos, as any species with a basic understanding of space would agree, is an unpredictable and bewildering expanse. However, even the most seasoned interstellar explorers were left reeling by the revelation made by the GLNX exploration fleet on stardate 34826. It began as an innocuous signal, just a soft beep. Captain Flo, reported navigator Ilex, whose antennae twitched in a mix of fear and disbelief. We found, well, a Class 13 Deathworld. The words hung in the air, thick with unease, as the crew absorbed the weight of the statement. A what? Captain Flo's 6 eyes narrowed in confusion. A Class 13 Deathworld, sir, Ilex repeated, voice laced with tension. A place where oxygen itself seems intent on setting you aflame, and the local wildlife views your face as an appetizer. The bridge crew visibly flinched. Class 13 Deathworlds were the most hostile kind of place conceivable, reserved for the most extreme examples of danger, planets that no one dared to approach. They were the kind of worlds only whispered about in safety briefings. Are you sure it's uninhabited? Flo asked cautiously. Not exactly, sir, Ilex replied, eyes fixed on the console. There's life, intelligent life. In fact, they appear to be thriving. Flux antennae stiffened in shock. Thriving? That's impossible. Even a Class 8 Deathworld is considered uninhabitable. We lost a probe trying to map a Class 10. Ilex's expression deepened into the kind of face bureaucrats where when they know an enormous amount of paperwork is on the horizon. Sir, they seem to actually enjoy living there. I've intercepted electromagnetic signals. There are video feeds of their activities. They're laughing. Flo stepped forward, peering at the holographic display. The screen revealed a group of humans gathered in what appeared to be a chaotic, noisy event. One human was hanging precariously from a thin cord over a vast canyon, shouting something that loosely translated to totally worth it. Are they performing some kind of execution ritual? Flo asked, his voice filled with disbelief. No, sir, Ilex answered. It's called bungee jumping. It's a recreational activity. The entire bridge crew fell silent, as if collectively trying to process the absurdity. Recreational, Flo echoed, stunned, as if trying to digest a strange new concept. What else have you found? Ilex hesitated, clearly unsettled. They also seem to partake in something called volcano surfing, and there's evidence they've tamed creatures capable of disemboweling them. He tapped the console, showing an image of a human affectionately hugging a large, fanged beast. Flo pressed his antennae together, a gesture that signified he was on the brink of a headache. Ilex, send this data to the Galactic Concordance immediately. Let them handle this madness. Within a few hours, the Galactic Concordance called an emergency meeting. Delegates from various species gathered, their holographic forms flickering as they debated the implications of humanity's survival on such an inhospitable world. Their oceans are full of apex predators, Ambassador Glue of the tranquil plore species cried. One of these creatures can devour an entire group of swimmers in mere seconds, and yet, countered Ambassador Zill, the humans have turned that very creature into soup. Soup. The room exploded into chaos. Some argued that humans represented an unfathomable evolutionary anomaly, a species driven by an entirely different set of values, one that prioritizes survival not through sheer adaptability, but through embracing chaos itself. Ambassador Yink continued, allowing the weight of the statement to settle over the room. Perhaps their existence is a form of rebellion against the very concept of what is survivable. If they can thrive under conditions that would obliterate any other species, what if their real strength lies in the absurdity of their actions? The council chamber remained still, each delegate processing the idea in silence. The tension was palpable, as if the entire galaxy was holding its breath. Ambassador Glue scoffed. Rebellion? They are not defying anything. They are inviting death. Their behavior is not strength. It is a fundamental disregard for the laws of nature. It's an accident waiting to happen, and I would rather not be caught in the blast radius when it does. You misunderstand, said Ambassador Vorlet, his feathers now ruffled. The humans might have discovered something we've overlooked. Perhaps their capacity for resilience is not an anomaly. It could be a form of evolutionary mastery, a new path forward for survival that is fundamentally different from our own. The fact that they thrive in what we consider death worlds doesn't make them reckless. It makes them enlightened in a way. Ambassador Zill, who had been watching the debate with a mixture of horror and fascination, finally spoke up. The humans are a walking paradox. How do they survive? Why would they thrive on a planet where survival itself seems to be a fleeting concept? Their very existence is a challenge to the notion of risk and reward. Ilex, still staring at the screen, turned to Captain Flo. Sir, I don't think the humans understand the word danger. They see it, but it doesn't seem to matter to them. It's as if danger itself is part part of their everyday experience. Captain Flo stared at the images of humans, fearless in the face of the impossible, and let out a slow sigh. Perhaps we've misjudged them. If they can withstand all of this, maybe their version of survival isn't the same as ours. Maybe they've become something else entirely, something beyond our comprehension. I think, Ilex said, his antennae drooping, we're going to need a bigger report. And as the debate in the Galactic Concordance continued, one thing was certain. The discovery of humanity had turned the entire galactic community upside down. The greatest minds in the universe had no answer for a species that thrived on a world that should have been impossible. It wasn't just their ability to survive that had shaken everyone to the core. It was their utter lack of fear in the face of annihilation. Whatever the future held, humanity's role in the galaxy was now a question no one could ignore. It seems the humans engage in a peculiar behavior known as traffic, where they move in what can only be described as a chaotic, unpredictable manner, Ilex explained, eyes wide. There is constant honking, shouting, and an alarming disregard for their own safety. It's as if they actively seek danger. Captain Flo leaned in, staring at the footage of humans darting across lanes of moving vehicles without hesitation. This is normal for them? Apparently, yes, sir, Ilex replied, tapping the screen. And this, he said, showing another clip from Probe T-42, is a group of humans riding on large, two-wheeled machines. They speed through the streets, ignoring traffic signals, and at times, even narrowly avoiding collisions with other moving objects. Are these traffic signals like the red, yellow, and green things we use for our ships? Flo asked, still trying to make sense of it all. Yes, sir, but the humans seem to treat them more like suggestions rather than rules, Ilex said, his antennae drooping slightly in disbelief. It's baffling, really. Then what else have we learned? Flo pressed. Ilex sighed. There is a segment of their population, labeled teenagers, who engage in something called pranking. They seem to derive enjoyment from tricking one another into dangerous, often ridiculous situations, all while laughing hysterically. One video shows a human hanging from a tree, holding a sign that reads "Free Fall," while a friend jumps from a building nearby. Free fall, Flo exclaimed, his antennae standing straight up in alarm. Are they insane? It's not just that, Captain, Ilex continued, scrolling through more footage. In addition to the traffic madness and pranks, some of them, they play with fire. Literally. They put themselves in dangerous situations with actual flames and explosions for entertainment. Why would they do this? Flo muttered, rubbing his temples in frustration. What motivates them to do such things? Ilex shrugged. It's unclear, sir. Their behavior seems to stem from a deep fascination with risk and danger. As if the more perilous the situation, the more thrilling it becomes for them. The silence on the bridge grew heavy as the crew processed this new information. The image of the human species, once thought to be capable of surviving only by adhering to a rigid survival code, was now completely turned upside down. They don't fear danger, Flo mused, his mind racing. In fact, they seem to actively seek it out. Are they suicidal, or is this something else? Ilex shook his head. I'm not sure, Captain, but there's more. We've also been observing their social structures. They have something called social media, which appears to amplify their reckless behavior by rewarding the most outrageous actions. Humans upload videos of their most dangerous stunts for others to see, and the more insane the stunt, the more attention they get. So they perform these risky acts for attention? Flo asked, bewildered. Is that it? This attention-seeking behavior is the key. It seems that way, sir, Ilex confirmed, and it goes beyond just individuals. They form groups, clubs, even dedicated to these daredevil activities. There's one group that calls themselves extreme sports enthusiasts. They travel the world, seeking out the most hazardous environments just to challenge themselves. They actively seek out natural disasters to, as they put it, surf the waves of chaos. That's beyond anything I could have imagined, Flo said slowly. Are we sure we're not just watching a group of sentient beings actively participating in self-destruction? Ilex hesitated. That might be what it looks like, sir. But the more we observe, the more it seems that these humans are thriving. They manage to survive these absurd risks, and somehow it strengthens their community bonds. They come together after these events, sharing stories of their near-death experiences, reinforcing their resilience. Captain Flo stared at the data with a sinking feeling in his gut. A species that actively seeks out chaos, thrives on danger, and builds entire communities around reckless behavior. It's as though survival itself isn't their goal. It's pushing the boundaries of survival to the point of absurdity. Yes, sir, Ilex agreed. It's almost like they're testing the limits of existence itself. Flo stood, pacing the bridge. This is not a species we can predict, Ilex. They are unpredictable in a way that defies all known logic. This isn't just about survival, it's about something deeper. They seem to live for the challenge of the impossible. And in that, they may very well be the galaxy's most dangerous species, but not in the way we expected. Ilex nodded. They're not just surviving. They're actively rewriting the very concept of survival. Yes, Flo murmured, his eyes narrowing. And that Ilex is what makes them terrifying. The transmission was brief, but it was enough to send the Galactic Concordance into a frenzy. The message had been intercepted by one of the GLNX probes, and it came from Earth. It was addressed simply to the Galactic Concordance. The message read, "Hi, we're humans. We're kind of a big deal. We've noticed you've been watching us. Cool, right? Let's chat sometime. Also, we think pineapple pizza is the best. Hit us up. Peace." The diplomatic council was immediately called into session, with each representative scrambling to process the implications of this bizarre communication. Ambassador Glue was the first to speak. "Are they challenging us?" he asked, his gelatinous form quivering with anxiety. "What is this? A joke? A declaration of war?" "I don't think it's a declaration of war," said Ambassador Zill, rubbing their feathers nervously. "But it is unsettling. They've noticed us. They've been aware of our surveillance this entire time and have responded in the most casual manner." "How is that possible?" Ambassador Labe demanded. "We've gone to great lengths to hide our presence. How could they possibly detect us? Are they that perceptive?" Ambassador Zill turned to the assistant, who was scrambling through the data. "Sir, the message appears to have been transmitted through standard electromagnetic waves. No sophisticated tech was involved. It's as if they've been aware of us all along and were just waiting for us to make a move. How do we respond?" Glue asked, his voice tinged with panic. "Do we initiate communication, or do we retreat and erase all our data on Earth? We could make them think it was a misunderstanding. We can't just erase everything," Zill muttered. "We need to understand them. What are we dealing with? I'll propose a diplomatic response, some sort of peace offering to show them we don't mean any harm. But we need to tread carefully. We can't risk offending them further. Their behavior, it's erratic." "Erratic? It's madness," Labe said. "First, they defy every law of survival, and now they issue a challenge to us. They're practically daring us to engage with them. This is absurd. Do we even know if they have any understanding of galactic politics?" At that moment, a transmission interrupted the debate. It was another communication from Earth, this time sent by a human representative. A female human with short brown hair appeared on the screen, holding what appeared to be a device similar to the one previously used in the pineapple pizza message. She spoke confidently. "Hello, Galactic Concordance. This is Sarah from Earth. We got your transmission, and we'd love to learn more about you, too. We noticed you've been observing our planet, and we're curious. What do you think of our planet's food? Specifically, pineapple pizza. It's a huge debate here. Some love it, some hate it, but we think it's the perfect way to test your open-mindedness. Also, if you want to learn about Earth's finest chaos-based sports, we're happy to give you a tour. We're all about surviving, well, thriving, under extreme conditions. Hope to hear from you soon." The council stared at the screen in stunned silence. "Food. They're talking about food," Flo muttered under his breath. "This is no longer about survival. It's a challenge, a test. They've turned everything into a test." Zill's feathers puffed up. "They don't even seem to realize how dangerous they are. They've been living on a death world for so long, their concept of danger is warped. Now they've opened the door to a galactic conversation, but they expect us to argue with them about pizza? What is happening?" Ilex, who had been silent for the past few moments, turned to Captain Flo. "Sir, I think they're inviting us to interact with them on their own terms. They aren't scared of us, they don't see us as threats. They might just want us to join in their chaotic way of life, to test our adaptability the way they've tested theirs. It's a cosmic game of sorts." Captain Flo paused, his 6 eyes narrowing as he processed this. "A game, Ilex? Or perhaps they're trying to see if we can survive their world just as they've survived ours. If we fail, do they laugh? Do they celebrate? We might be playing a dangerous game, but I fear it's already too late to back out." The council, now gripped with uncertainty, fell into an uneasy quiet. None of them knew how to proceed. Were the humans inviting an exchange of ideas, or were they simply testing the limits of galactic diplomacy? The answer, it seemed, lay somewhere between absurdity and revelation, and it was up to the Galactic Concordance to decide if they were ready for the challenge. "This is absurd," Captain Flo muttered, staring at the communication from Earth. "We must find a way to fix this before it escalates further." Ilex shifted uneasily. We could try to reach them directly, but they're already preparing. There's no slowing down the momentum. They're treating it like a global event. They're building teams and modifying vehicles as if their very survival depends on it. Flo groaned, his multiple eyes blinking rapidly in frustration. How can they be so enthusiastic? This isn't a competition. It's a diplomatic disaster waiting to happen. Meanwhile, the broadcast from Earth continued to escalate. The Fascinator, clearly the leader of the group, was now outlining the rules of the so-called drag race, which, as far as the GLNX could tell, involved a free-for-all of heavily modified vehicles racing through dangerous environments. No holds barred, the Fascinator proclaimed. Whoever wins gets the title of Earth's premier representatives. If we win, the aliens will bow to us. If they win, well, they better pack a lunch because they're gonna need it. The camera panned to a human sitting in a vehicle that appeared to be a cross between a car and a rocket, with large exhaust pipes spewing steam. The vehicle's paint job was a dazzling mix of neon colors and jagged patterns. "We're ready," the human said, pumping their fist. "Bring on the aliens." Ambassador Zill, still watching the feed in disbelief, turned to their assistant. "This is madness. How could a species, with all their supposed survival instincts, be so reckless? This isn't a diplomatic engagement. It's a challenge, a ridiculous one. They're practically daring us to fight them." "We could pull back," suggested the assistant nervously. "We could send a message explaining the error. Try to call off the race before it gets out of hand." Zill shook their head. "It's too late for that. The humans don't seem to care that it was an accident. They see it as a game they believe they're winning. If we pull back now, they'll see it as a sign of weakness. If we ignore it, we risk provoking them further. We need to engage on their terms." Back aboard the GLNX ship, Captain Flo slammed his claw on the console again. "Prepare the ship for emergency diplomatic contact," he ordered. "We need to meet them halfway. If they want a race, let's make it a proper one, with no surprises." Ilex hesitated. "Sir, are you sure that's wise? They've already made it clear they'll take us on, whether we're ready or not." "We don't have a choice," Flo replied, his tone grim. "If they think this is a competition for survival, we can't let them think we're backing down. We need to make them understand that we're not their enemies, but we won't let them disrespect us either. We'll participate on our terms, and we'll show them just how out of their depth they really are." As the GLNX crew scrambled to prepare for what was now being dubbed the Great Galactic Drag Race, a quiet fear spread through their ranks. This wasn't just a diplomatic engagement gone wrong. It was a battle of egos, a test of survival, and above all, a reminder that the humans' chaotic energy was unlike anything the galaxy had ever encountered. "We'll need to come up with a strategy," Flo said, his voice steadying as he gazed at the endless stream of human videos flooding the feed. "We have to outsmart them, outmaneuver them, and most importantly, we need to show them that we will not be their joke." Ilex nodded, but there was a tremor in their voice. "A race is one thing, Captain, but I think we're dealing with something far stranger than any of us could have anticipated." "Indeed," Flo said darkly, staring at the growing footage of the human excitement on Earth. "We've just entered their game, and I fear we've underestimated the stakes." "Are we really doing this?" Ilex muttered, gripping the controls with a trembling appendage. "This is madness. This is not a diplomatic exchange. This is chaos." "Yes, Ilex," Flo replied, his voice as steady as he could muster. "It's madness, but it's also our only chance to avoid being the punchline of a galactic joke. We'll participate and we'll win. We have no other choice, right?" Ilex said weakly, taking a deep breath. "Win. That's all we have to do." The countdown began, the human on the starting line waving the small flag with a dramatic flourish. The crowd of Earthlings, who had somehow transformed this bizarre event into a full-blown festival, screamed with excitement. The air was thick with anticipation, the scene reminiscent of a grand carnival, except there was no indication that any of this was intentional. It was as if Earth had suddenly turned into a circus, an unpredictable, laughably dangerous circus where the stakes were unknown and the performers didn't even realize they were in a show. 5, the flag waver called out as the GLNX scout craft hummed and the flame-painted behemoth idled on the other side of the line. 4, they shouted, and the humans, who had already been cheering like maniacs for the last few minutes, only grew louder. 3, the voice echoed, and Flo could feel the tension building like a storm in the air, the ship's thrusters ready to unleash their power. 2, the countdown continued, and the GLNX crew held their breath. 1, the flag dropped, and chaos erupted. The Fascinator's vehicle roared to life with a cacophonous explosion of sound, smoke, and what could only be described as reckless abandon. It shot forward, the ground trembling beneath its tires as it sped off, leaving a trail of black smoke in its wake. The GLNX scout craft, on the other hand, moved with precision, anti-gravity stabilizers engaging with quiet efficiency as it gracefully glided forward, its sleek form cutting through the air with an elegance that contrasted sharply with the utter madness unfolding beside it. The Fascinator's vehicle swerved wildly, tires screeching as it attempted to maintain control. It was clear that the modifications were meant to provide speed, but they came at the cost of stability. The vehicle veered off course, narrowly avoiding a group of cheering humans who didn't seem to notice the danger at all. They were too busy reveling in the spectacle. "I think we're winning," Ilex whispered in disbelief as the GLNX ship sped forward with calculated precision. "We're outpacing them." "How are we?" The Fascinator's vehicle let out a violent backfire, the engine sputtering and wheezing as it struggled to keep up. It was clear that the human driver had no idea what they were doing, just as it was equally clear that the crowd had no interest in the outcome, as long as it was exciting. Humans were waving banners, honking horns, and tossing confetti into the air, as if the entire race was one giant party. "Are we really winning?" Flo asked, his voice barely audible over the noise of the engines. "Or are we just playing into their game?" Ilex glanced over at the chaos unfolding on the other side of the racecourse. "It doesn't matter, Captain. We have to win. We can't back down now, not when they're cheering for us like this. If we lose, they'll think we're weak. And if we back out, they'll think we don't know how to handle chaos." "Great," Flo muttered, still holding his ground as the sleek GLNX craft surged ahead. "So we win or we look like idiots. What a choice." As the race continued, the GLNX scout craft left the human vehicle in its dust. The Fascinator's ride was visibly struggling, swerving wildly as the driver desperately tried to regain control. The humans, however, were having the time of their lives, their cheers growing louder with every twist and turn of the race. Even though it was clear to the GLNX crew that this was an event designed to test their ability to endure chaos, the humans seemed utterly convinced that this was normal. "We're almost there, Captain," Ilex said, his antennae trembling with nerves as the finish line came into view. "We've got this." As the GLNX scout craft neared the finish line, the Fascinator's vehicle sputtered to a halt, the engine clearly unable to keep up. But instead of jeering, the humans erupted into even more uproarious cheering. They had lost, but it didn't matter. The race had been won in spirit by the very act of daring to race at all. Flo stared at the scene unfolding below, his mind spinning. "It's over," he said flatly. "We've done it, but what does it mean?" Ilex asked, the question hanging in the air. "What it means," Flo said with a weary sigh, "is that we've just entered a new kind of diplomacy. One where survival isn't the goal. It's the spectacle." As the GLNX ship ascended away from Earth, leaving the chaotic, jubilant planet behind, Captain Flo stared out into the vast expanse of space. The echoes of the humans' victory chants still seemed to linger in his mind. "Earth wins. Earth wins," they had shouted, not caring about the logic or the rules of the race, but only about the sheer spectacle of it all. Ilex sat beside him, silently processing the madness they had just witnessed. "Do you think they'll ever understand the implications of what they've done?" Ilex asked, their voice quieter now, as if the events of the day had drained them. Flo shook his head slowly. "I doubt it. They thrive on chaos, Ilex. They take risks that even the most reckless species wouldn't dare. But they don't seem to care about consequences. They just keep pushing forward, like nothing could possibly stop them. And maybe that's the point." Ilex looked at the captain, their antennae twitching. "It's like they don't just live in the moment, they revel in it. They take what should be dangerous and turn it into entertainment. It's maddening, but it's also kind of brilliant." "Brilliant," Flo repeated, his voice skeptical. "Is it brilliant to risk death for fun? To launch yourself into a canyon with no regard for the laws of nature?" "Maybe," Ilex said with a shrug, "maybe it's their way of showing that nothing is impossible. That even in the most absurd, unpredictable situations, they can still find a way to survive and laugh about it." Flo fell silent, staring at the stars outside the viewport. "I don't know, Ilex," he said finally. "I can't decide if they're a disaster waiting to happen or the universe's greatest prank." "Maybe they're both," Ilex replied, "and maybe that's what makes them so dangerous. They don't fear anything, not even failure. They just keep going, no matter how ridiculous the odds." The ship hummed with quiet efficiency as it continued its journey away from Earth, leaving behind a planet still caught in the aftermath of the most absurd diplomatic incident the GLNX had ever witnessed. The humans, unshaken by the consequences, would return to their chaotic lives, blissfully unaware of the cosmic ripple they had caused. "We've only just scratched the surface, haven't we?" Flo said, the weight of the realization sinking in. "Yes, sir," Ilex answered, her voice heavy with a mix of awe and trepidation. "And the galaxy won't know what hit it when they finally leave that planet. We might have just seen the beginning of something extraordinary." Flo nodded slowly. "If they ever decide to leave, that is, because as long as they stay there, it's their world. And the rest of us are just passing through. Maybe we should start preparing?" Ilex suggested, her voice tinged with a nervous,